1983 Michigan Wolverines football team. The 1983 Michigan Wolverines football team was an American football team that represented the University of Michigan in the 1983 Big Ten Conference football season. In their 15th season under head coach Bo Schembechler, the Wolverines compiled a 9-3 record, 8-1 against conference opponents, lost to Auburn in the 1984 Sugar Bowl, and outscored all opponents by a total of 355 to 160. The team's statistical leaders included tailback Rick Rogers with 1002 rushing yards, quarterback Steve Smith with 1420 passing yards and 2087 yards of total offense, Sim Nelson with 494 receiving yards, and placekicker Bob Bergeron with 76 points scored. Steve Smith was selected as the most valuable player on the Michigan team. Two Michigan offensive linemen, guard Stefan Humphries and center Tom Dixon, received first-team All-America honors. 6 Michigan players Humphries, Dixon, defensive linemen Sincich and Kevin Brooks, defensive back Evan Cooper, and placekicker Bob Bergeron received first-team honors on the 1983 All-Big Ten Conference football team. Prior to the season, head coach Bo Schembechler delivered the famous The Team speech, which would go on to become an integral part of Michigan football lore. Schedule. Game summaries. Washington State. On September 10, 1983, Michigan, ranked number 1 preseason by Sports Illustrated, defeated Washington State 2017 before a crowd of 103,256 at Michigan Stadium. The game was played in extreme heat, with the temperature reaching 100 degrees on the field. Washington State took a 17-14 lead with 9:42 left in the game after a 63-yard, 11-play drive capped by a 2-yard touchdown run. The Wolverines responded with a 75-yard drive that included a 52-yard run by Rick Rogers. Rogers rushed for 124 yards on 19 carries. Quarterback David Hall scored the winning touchdown on a 4-yard option run with 6:10 left in the game. At Washington. On September 17, 1983, Michigan lost to Washington 25-24 before a crowd of 60,638 at Husky Stadium in Seattle. After trailing 24-10 early in the fourth quarter, Washington scored 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns and successfully passed for a 2-point conversion in the final minute of play. Washington quarterback Steve Pelluer completed 15 of 15 passes in the fourth quarter. Todd Schlopy missed what would have been a game-winning 32-yard field goal with 4 minutes remaining in the game. Wisconsin. On September 24, 1983, Michigan defeated Wisconsin 38-21 before a crowd of 77,708 at Camp Randall Stadium in Madison, Wisconsin. Michigan led 32-7 at the end of the third quarter before Wisconsin mounted a fourth-quarter comeback. Michigan rushed for 351 yards in the game. Kerry Smith led with 107 yards on 22 carries. Brian Mercer added 64 yards and a touchdown on 10 carries, and Rick Rogers rushed for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Wolverines passed for only 42 yards on 5 completions. Steve Smith also threw 2 interceptions. Indiana. On October 1, 1983, Michigan defeated Indiana 43-18 before a crowd of 104,126 at Michigan Stadium. Tailback Kerry Smith rushed for 3 touchdowns. Steve Smith rushed for 130 yards on 14 carries and completed 6 of 17 passes for 82 yards. Rick Rogers also rushed for 101 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries. Indiana quarterback Steve Bradley passed for 246 yards, but he also gave up 4 interceptions. Michigan State. On October 8, 1983, Michigan defeated Michigan State 42-0 before a crowd of 78,033 at Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, Michigan. It was Bo Schembechler's 100th Big Ten coach victory and George Pearl's first year as head coach of the Spartans. Northwestern. On October 15, 1983, Michigan defeated Northwestern 35-0 before a crowd of 103,914 at Michigan Stadium. Rick Rogers scored 2 rushing touchdowns. Steve Smith also rushed for 2 touchdowns and threw for another on a 2-yard pass to Dan Rice. Iowa. On October 22, 1983, Michigan, ranked number 10, defeated No. 12 Iowa 16-13 before a homecoming crowd of 104,559 at Michigan Stadium. Bob Bergeron kicked 3 field goals, including the game-winning 45-yard field with 8 seconds left in the game. The game-winning drive began when Michigan linebacker Rodney Lyles recovered. Rick Rogers also scored a touchdown on a 4-yard run in the third quarter. Illinois. On October 29, 1983, Michigan lost to Illinois 16-6 before a crowd of 76,127 at Memorial Stadium in Champaign, Illinois. It was the first time Illinois had beaten Michigan since 1966. Illinois quarterback Jack Trudeau completed 21 of 37 passes for 271 yards, including touchdown passes of 9 yards. Steve Smith completed 12 of 25 for 111 yards. Michigan was limited to 2 field goals by Bob Bergeron. Illinois went on to win the Big Ten championship. Purdue. On November 5, 1983, Michigan defeated Purdue 42-10 before a crowd of 104,946 at Michigan Stadium. Steve Smith completed 11 of 13 passes for 159 yards and also rushed for 126 yards on 12 carries. Purdue's quarterback Scott Campbell was held to 118 passing yards and was intercepted 3 times. Minnesota. On November 12, 1983, Michigan defeated Minnesota 58-10 before a crowd of 40,945 at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis. Despite being pulled early in the third quarter, Steve Smith accounted for 6 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 passing, and compiled 327 yards in total offense, 147 rushing, 180 passing. Ohio State. On November 19, 1983, Michigan defeated Ohio State 24-21 before a crowd of 106,115 at Michigan Stadium. Steve Smith ran for a touchdown and passed for 2 others, a 67-yard completion to Triando Markray in the first quarter and an 8-yarder to tight end Eric Kattis in the fourth quarter. Ohio State turned the ball over 4 times. Michigan drove to the 1-yard line in the second quarter, but the Ohio State defense held, and Michigan missed a field goal attempt on 4th down. The Wolverines trailed at the start of the fourth quarter, but rallied for 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The go-ahead touchdown followed a Brad Cochran interception at midfield, which he returned to Ohio State's 28-yard line. 1984 Sugar Bowl. On January 2, 1984, Michigan lost to Auburn 9-7 in the 1984 Sugar Bowl, played before a crowd of 77,893 at the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. Michigan took the lead on a 4-yard touchdown run by Steve Smith in the first quarter. Michigan was unable to score again, and Auburn came back on 3 field goals by Al Del Greco. Del Greco's final field goal occurred with 23 seconds remaining in the game. Bo Jackson rushed for 130 yards on 22 carries and was selected as the game's most valuable player. Award season. 2 Michigan players received first-team honors on the 1983 All-America team. Offensive guard Stefan Humphries received first-team honors from the Football Writers Association of America, United Press International, and the Sporting News. He also received second-team honors from the Associated Press, Gannett News Service, and Newspaper Enterprise Association. Center Tom Dixon received first-team honors from the American Football Coaches Association, Associated Press, and the Sporting News. 6 Michigan players received first-team honors from the Associated Press (AP) or United Press International (UPI) on the 1983 All-Big Ten Conference football team. Offensive guard Stefan Humphries a P-1, up A-1, center Tom Dixon a P-1, up A-1, placekicker Bob Bergeron. 4 others received second-team honors. Linebacker Mike Mallory a P-2, up A-2, linebacker Carlton Rose a P-2, up A-2, running back Rick Rogers up A-2, and offensive guard Jerry Diorio a P-2. Team awards were presented as follows. Most Valuable Player, Steve Smith. Mayor Morton Award, Steve Smith. John Molbech Award, Bob Bergeron. Frederick Matthey Award, Al Sincich. Arthur Robinson Scholarship Award, Stefan Humphries. Dick Catcher Award, Carlton Rose. Robert P. Ufer Award, Jeff Cohen. Personnel. Offense. Greg Armstrong, fullback, senior, Middletown, Ohio, started 4 games at fullback. Art Ballardos, center, junior, Chicago, Illinois. Vincent Bean, split end, senior, Southfield, Michigan, started all 12 games at split end. Milt Carthens, tight end, senior, Pontiac, Michigan. Dan Decker, quarterback, sophomore, Roseville, Michigan. Jerry Diorio, offensive guard, senior, Youngstown, Ohio, started all 12 games at left offensive guard. Tom Dixon, center, senior, Fort Wayne, Indiana, started all 12 games at center. Jumbo Elliott, offensive tackle, freshman, Lake Ronkonkoma, New York. Eddie Garrett, fullback, sophomore, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, started 6 games at fullback. David Hall, quarterback, senior, Livonia, Michigan, started 1 game at quarterback. Mark Hammerstein, offensive line, sophomore, Wapakonta, Ohio. Jim Harbaugh, quarterback, sophomore, Palo Alto, California. Ken Higgins, wide receiver, freshman, Battle Creek, Michigan, started 1 game at flanker. Stefan Humphries, offensive guard, senior, Broward, Florida, started all 12 games at right offensive guard. Gerald Ingram, fullback, senior, Beaver, Pennsylvania. Doug James, offensive guard, senior, Louisville, Kentucky, started all 12 games at right offensive tackle. Philvany Johnson, wide receiver, sophomore, Detroit, Michigan, started 4 games at flanker. Eric Kattis, tight end, junior, Cincinnati, Ohio. Ben Log, running back, sophomore, Atlanta, Georgia. Triando Marcray, wide receiver, sophomore, Detroit, Michigan, started 7 games at flanker. Brian Mercer, tailback, junior, Cincinnati, Ohio. Clay Miller, offensive tackle, junior, Norman, Oklahoma, started all 12 games at left offensive tackle. Sim Nelson, tight end, junior, Fort Wayne, Indiana, started all 12 games at tight end. Bob Bergeron, running back, sophomore, Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts. Dan Rice, running back, sophomore, Roxbury, Massachusetts, started 2 games at fullback. Rick Rogers, running back, junior, Inkster, Michigan, started 11 games at tailback. Kerry Smith, running back, senior, Grand Rapids, Michigan started one game at tailback. Steve Smith, quarterback, senior. Grand Blanc, Michigan started 9 games at quarterback. Larry Sweeney, center, senior, Alma, Michigan. Gerald White, running back, freshman, Titusville, Florida. Thomas Wilcher, tailback, sophomore, Detroit, Michigan, 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 Michigan. Dan Yarano, offensive guard. Defense, Jeffrey Akers, outside linebacker, junior. Timothy Anderson, inside linebacker, junior. Ann Arbor, Michigan started 6 games at inside linebacker. Mike Barron, inside linebacker, senior. Columbus, Ohio started 4 games at inside linebacker. Kevin Brooks, defensive tackle, junior. Detroit, Michigan started all 12 games at defensive tackle. Fritz Burgess, defensive back, senior. Pasadena, California. Brad Cochran, defensive back, junior. Royal Oak, Michigan started all 12 games at strong side cornerback. Jeff Cohen, defensive back, senior. Farmington Hills, Michigan. Evan Cooper, defensive back, senior. Miami, Florida started all 12 games, 8 at strong safety, 4 at free safety. Vincent DeFellis, defensive tackle, senior. Trenton, Michigan started 11 games at defensive tackle. John Furrens, defensive back, senior. Toledo, Ohio. Tony Gant, linebacker, sophomore. Vermont, Ohio started 8 games at free safety. Joe Gray, linebacker, junior. Detroit, Michigan. Mike Hammerstein, defensive tackle, junior. Wapakonta, Ohio started 1 game at defensive tackle. Thomas J. Hassel, outside linebacker, senior. Cincinnati, Ohio started 6 games at outside linebacker. Dieter Heeren, defensive back, sophomore. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Jim Hairman, inside linebacker, senior. Dearborn Heights, Michigan. Rich Hewlett, defensive back, senior. Plymouth, Michigan started 4 games at strong safety. John Lott, defensive back, senior. Massery, Ohio started all 12 games at weak side cornerback. Rodney Lyles, outside linebacker, senior. Miami, Florida started 11 games at outside linebacker. Doug Mallory, defensive back, freshman. DeKalb, Illinois. Mike Mallory, inside linebacker, junior. DeKalb, Illinois started all 12 games at inside linebacker. Dave Meredith, defensive tackle, senior. Sterling Heights, Michigan. Andy Moeller, inside linebacker, sophomore. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Mike Reinhold, inside linebacker, sophomore. Muskegon, Michigan started 2 games at inside linebacker. Garland Rivers, defensive back, freshman. Canton, Ohio. Nathaniel Rogers, middle guard, senior. Warren, Ohio. Carlton Rose, outside linebacker, senior. Fort Lauderdale, Florida started 6 games at outside linebacker. James Scarcely, outside linebacker, junior. Warren, Michigan started 1 game at outside linebacker. Alan Sincich, middle guard, junior. Cleveland, Ohio started all 12 games at middle guard. Michael Wilson, defensive tackle, senior. Detroit, Michigan. 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 Kickers, Bob Bergeron, place kicker, senior. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Don Bracken, punter, senior. Thermopolis, Wyoming. Wyoming, 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 Wyoming. Todd Schlopey, place kicker, senior, Orchard Park, New York. Professional football. 15 members of the 1983 football team went on to play professional football. Don Bracken, Green Bay Packers, 1985-90. Los Angeles Rams, 1992-93. Kevin Brooks, Dallas Cowboys, 1985-88. Detroit Lions, 1989-90. Milt Carthen's Indianapolis Colts, 1987. Evan Cooper, Philadelphia Eagles, 1984-87. Atlanta Falcons, 1988-89. Jerry Diorio, Detroit Lions, 1987. Jumbo Elliott, New York Giants, 1988-95. Mike Hammerstein, Cincinnati Bengals, 1986-90. Jim Harbaugh, Chicago Bears, 1987-1993. Indianapolis Colts, 1994-1997. Baltimore Ravens, 1998. San Diego Chargers, 1999-2000. Carolina Panthers, 2001. Stefan Humphries, Chicago Bears, 1984-86. Denver Broncos, 1987-88. Eric Kattis, Cincinnati Bengals, 1986-91. New York Jets, 1992. Bob Bergeron, New England Patriots, 1987-90. Denver Broncos, 1991-92. Garland Rivers, Chicago Bears, 1987. Albany Firebirds, 1990-91. Arizona Rattlers, 1992-93. Carlton Rose, Washington Redskins, 1987. Gerald White, Dallas Cowboys, 1987. Coaching staff. Head coach Bo Schembechler. Assistant coaches Gary Moeller, assistant head coach and defensive coordinator. Lloyd Carr, defensive backfield coach. Milan Vuletic, linebackers coach. Jerry Meter, defensive line coach. Jerry Hanlon, quarterbacks coach. Terrell Burton, running backs coach. Bob Thornblad, wide receivers coach. Elliot Uzelak, offensive line coach. Paul Schudel, offensive interior line coach. Alex Agace. Bob C.H. Meal, trainer. Russ Miller, Russ Miller, Russ Miller, Russ Miller, Russ Miller. Manager, Paul Jacobs. Douglas Ham, Kenneth Pefkins, Robert Reed. Statistics. Rushing. Passing. Receiving. Scoring.